I did something crazy. Sometimes I look at myself and I can't believe I ever did that. Even though it's been many years, I have never spoken about it to anyone because I feel somewhat ashamed of myself. But I did it for my sanity. My name is Oreva, and when I got married 15 years ago at the age of 24, I was naive and gentle as a sheep. My husband is 4 years older than I am, and we loved each other very much. He was my first and only love, and he married me right after I finished university because he was going to travel to Europe for a course, and he wanted us to be married before he left. By the time he traveled 2 months after our wedding, I was pregnant. We agreed that I would move in with his mother. He was the only boy and the last child, so he was the apple of her eye, especially since his father died when he was 12. Before he left, his mother was so nice to me, and I did not foresee any issues staying with her. Once he left, however, my mother-in-law became my nightmare. The switch was so sudden and immediate. It was almost unbelievable. The very next morning after he left, she woke me up at 5 a.m. and handed me a broom to start sweeping. I picked my phone to look at the time, and before I could even look, she told me herself what the time was and also said I should better get used to it because this was how things would be from then on. My mother-in-law did not care that I was pregnant. Thankfully, I was not sick, but I was often so sleepy. Even as my stomach grew in size, which it did quite fast, she did not let up. In fact, I had to go out myself and buy a long broom when it became uncomfortable to bend over. I cooked, cleaned, washed, and went to the market. She woke me up at 5 a.m. and most days I was busy throughout so that by the time I went to lay down at night, I almost literally crashed. Many times I cried while I was working. It was not just the work, but the contempt she displayed to me and the hypocrisy when my husband called or any of his sisters came visiting. I never told him or anyone else about my ordeal because I did not want to disrupt the family, and I knew how much my husband loved his mom, so I was not sure how things would play out. When my husband returned, I was already 33 weeks gone, and we moved to our own home almost immediately so that we could settle before the baby's arrival. I was so thankful to finally be in my own space and away from my evil mother-in-law. The incident I am speaking about happened after our baby girl was born. My mother-in-law came to stay with us to help with the baby, and my husband had said she would stay for 3 months. He noted how happy I must be because he thought that his mother and I had formed a bond when we stayed together. The first month was not terrible, especially because my mother was also around. It was when she left after about 3 weeks that my mother-in-law brought out her swords again. It was only she and I who were at home most times until my husband got back in the evenings, and she was set to make my life hell. She criticized me and complained about everything I did. She wanted me to cook her 3 meals every day and go to the market while taking care of the baby. She would not help me with the baby throughout the day, but she would put up a show in the evenings when my husband returned. I was even to serve her meals in her bedroom and clear up after her. She did nothing for me. One morning, after my husband left for work, she started again and I snapped. When I went to serve her meal in her room, I tactfully removed the key to the door, and after serving the meal, I locked her in the room. When she finished eating, I heard her call for me to come and clear up. And when I did not respond, she tried to open the door and realized that it was locked. At first, she screamed insults at me and threatened to report me, but I was not moved. After a couple of hours, she changed her tone and started to plead with me, but I still did not respond. I locked her in the room for about 8 hours. When I opened the door around 6 p.m., just before my husband's usual time of return, I did not say a word to her. I just went in, cleared the tray of food, and left. By the time my husband returned just before 7, she had packed her bags and was sitting in the living room ready to leave. As soon as I heard my husband driving, I started crying. I met him at the door and told him to help me plead with Mama not to leave because I needed her and she would not tell me why she was leaving at that time of the day. My husband tried to ask her what was going on, but she refused to answer and insisted that she needed to leave and that he should take her home. So he did. He came back and asked me again what happened. He was confused, but I told him I was as shocked as he was. My mother-in-law has not returned to stay in our house ever since then. She only visits and leaves the same day. For my 2 other children, it was my mom who came over when my mother-in-law refused to come. She and I have not discussed the matter ever again. And when we interact, she is civil to me, even though I accord her all the required respect and I buy her gifts and send her money too. The incident plays over in my mind many times and I feel a tinge of guilt each time, but it brought me the greater peace I have enjoyed ever since. I shudder to think what my life would have been like otherwise. Would I do it again? I'm not so sure I would. It was an impulsive action in a moment of desperation. What do you think about what Oreva did? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Remember to subscribe to my channel and to turn on the notification bell so you never miss any of my videos.